Welcome to Women Who Innovate, a podcast series presented by Randstad Canada as part of its Women Transforming the Workplace program. We explore winning strategies for navigating the ever-evolving labor market through a series of thought-provoking, inspiring interviews with bold and passionate women who are shaping the workplace of tomorrow. Hello, I'm your host, Marie-Noëlle Morancy, and today it's my pleasure to introduce you to Gina Cody, a true Canadian engineering trailblazer. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Hello, Gina.
Hello, Marie-Noëlle.
It is an honor to speak with you today. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for asking me.
First, I'd like to ask, did you always know you wanted to be an engineer?
Since I was a child, I was always a fixer. If the table was broken, the TV wasn't working, the radio was broken, I always wanted to fix them. So maybe that was something in my DNA since I was a child as a fixer. And that tells you, oh my God, your future is in engineering. If you want to fix things, you are an engineer by nature.
And were your parents behind you with that career choice?
My parents were quite a source of encouragement for me. My father was opinionated on the fact that women and men are equal and they should do similar things. And you have to be a trailblazer. You have to do stuff that not that many women do, not that because they're not capable of. Mm-hmm. It's just because it's not the norm. So he was a strong believer and his dream was for me to be an engineer. So I had a lot of encouragement, yes.
So I guess that's the key also to have, like, it really helps if your entourage is behind you, supporting you in your choices. That's pretty much harder if you feel like you're alone in that path, right? So.
Absolutely. I think the parents and teachers in elementary school have a big input in what our future generation will be. So the more encouragement we get from parents be given to their children, the better those children will be. I have met many women who say they wanted to be engineers and unfortunately their parents discouraged them. Mm. And that is the trend that I'm hoping we can change.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Well, the stats are there to show it. Like, there's still not a lot of women engineers, a lot of female students in engineering. That's still a very low percentage. So hopefully we can change that trend with examples like like yours. Your career started in Toronto, where you started at construction control as a crane inspector, which is very unique. So you were at the time the only woman to be assigned such a role. So what was it like to be a woman engineer back then? I'm guessing you were one of the very, very few.
Absolutely, and I think it had its own positive and negative. And to me, the most important thing is to make the negative to become the positive. The negative was that I was the only woman. People didn't trust me. They expected me to fail. And the positive side was when I proved them wrong, they always remembered me because I was the only woman. They would remember my name, where I worked. So all of that gave me an advantage because now they knew who I was for who I really was, not by my gender. So they trusted my decisions and respected me for that. It was not easy. I was the only woman, and being the only woman, their eyes are on you. So you have to work hard. You have to make sure you do not make mistakes. So the tolerance for mistake is zero almost. You can't be wrong. You have to be prepared. You have to go to a meeting completely ready to answer questions.
So what you're saying is that you were held to different standards. So you were held to a higher standard because you were a woman?
Absolutely. I always believed, and I still do, for a woman to be considered equal in a male-dominated area of practice, they have to be better to be accepted as equal. That has been always my equation, and I accepted it. And that made me to be a better person and work harder. And I think that comes as a solution to a problem. Just work hard, persevere, they will accept you, and then they will respect you.
That leads me to the focus of our program this year is unconscious biases. For example, there was a research from Harvard with over 200,000 participants saying that 76% of the respondents, both men and women, are gender biased and tend to think that men are better suited for some careers and women are better suited as homemakers. I'm still surprised that this bias would still go on, but obviously, like, gender bias is still very strong, whether it's conscious or even unconscious, which can be even more dangerous because we don't recognize it, we don't see it. Are you surprised that we still have these gender biases, and have you concretely experienced them throughout your career?
I'm not surprised at all, because you see there are generations that don't believe women belong. Still, there are many people, even in the developed countries, that are questioning the fact that we have so few women entering the engineering and computer science and STEM program and fields is an evidence of that bias that has been from childhood going on. And as you mentioned, unconscious bias is quite dangerous because people think that they are very progressive, they are allowing women, but in the back of their mind, they always question that are they capable, are they good enough? And I think the way to overcome is for women to have confidence in themselves that yes, I am good enough. Yes, I am smart enough. Yes, I am strong enough to be in the field that is at the present time is male dominated, but in 10 years time, the figures are going to change. The statistics hopefully be completely opposite. If we look at the medicine and doctors, that field took a while. We didn't have probably very few women entering into medicine program. Decades ago and a century ago, probably they were non-existent. They accepted them as nurses, but not as doctors. So that got changed. And now if you go to hospitals, you would be surprised by the percentage in universities. The percentage have increased drastically. And I'm hoping that the same thing will happen in this STEM program. And it has to start from childhood, and it has to happen for the gender to be successful and equal and accepted as equal.
Well, especially in STEM, one of the biggest unconscious bias that we hear is that, women are not as good with numbers. I don't know where that can come from, but it is still a bias that we hear. And I don't think it's as conscious as it is unconscious, but we're kind of used to think that women are naturally less inclined to be good with numbers. Obviously, it's absolutely not true, and we can't prove that at all. But it's still one example where we do need to consciously fight that bias, because it prevents women to have that confidence to go into STEM field because they can.
Yes, there are two issues here. One is a strength in numbers. If we are more in the STEM fields, it proves the whole bias wrong. So they can face that. But for that to happen, we need to start from childhood. We need to start encouraging the girls and young women to get into math program, into science program. We have to make the programs more fun. Our education system hasn't changed. The same thing that I was taught 40 years ago, 50 years ago, the same thing are being taught today. They have to change the way we teach so that physics and chemistry are fun. We have to encourage high school kids to take, for example, physics classes. Because physics are harder, and say, okay, you're a girl, you don't have to take it. Then they can get into engineering program. The obstacle has already been put forward against them. And one of my biggest fears are that we are in the fourth industrial revolution. The whole economy of the world is reliant on artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, advanced manufacturing. All of these subject matters require a knowledge of the STEM field and computer science, engineering, math. So if our women don't get into those fields at early stages, in next decade, they will not only be behind, they will be further behind from the current time. And that's the fear I have for our young women and girls.
Yeah, and with the population getting older, there are some critical labor shortages that are coming, and we cannot do without women. Of course, they're 50% of the population, so we do need them as skilled workers in those specific fields. So we cannot do without. So we need to accelerate that process. I totally agree. And is there a difference in the way girls and boys learn? Is there a key there where we try to standardize what we teach our boys and girls? Is there a different way to learn that we could leverage also in the way boys and girls learn?
I don't believe so. I think boys and girls learn the same way. The main issue is when they are told that you're not good at something, we believe in that. If we are told that we are good at it, we also believe in that. It's that encouragement that makes a person to enter a program. So if parents tell their daughter that, engineering is for your brother, not for you, you should get into other programs, then for sure the kids follow the advice that is given to them. And that advice really at this day and era is not appropriate. I think the girls and boys should do what they love and what they enjoy. And they should not be discouraged in entering the STEM programs. But also following up to your question, when a girl is born, if we start pushing them on toys and issues that are more girly and nurturing, which is fine. As a woman, we are nurturing people because we give birth to children. But give the boys all the technical toys and take it away from the girls. It's some encouragement and unconscious bias that we as parents already built in to our children. So that has to change as well.
And as you say, it's exposure. We tend to, and that's funny because at Christmas, because I'm in this program, I'm starting to think way more about this. And I have a little girl. And of course, we tend to offer them dolls and stuff like that. And I bought her at Christmas a little toolbox with a hammer and a screwdriver.
Kudos to you.
You know what, sweetie, you can help your father with these things, yes. So it's about exposure and sending them to science class and not just dance class. So it's just thinking, and again, that goes back to unconscious biases. I never thought of that consciously, but because of this program and that we talk about it so much, then I really consciously made the choice to buy her something that's more masculine or associated with a masculine trait and buy her a toolbox. And she's super happy and she's happy to.
Exactly. And I always tell my friends that actually the biggest and best chefs and famous chefs are men. However, in the household, we always expect all the women do the cooking. So this is an unconscious bias that women are better at cooking than men. Not really. Men can be as good in cooking, and women are, as proven by the fact that the great chefs are men. So that is the whole unconscious bias on the other way as well.
Yeah. So we have to, to break this cycle and just try different things. You eventually became CEO of the company, which was named in 2013 one of the best managed organizations in the country. And in 2010, you were named one of Canada's top 10 most influential women entrepreneurs by Profit magazine. So obviously, you are a very successful leader. How would you describe your leadership style? What makes a good leader? And again, as a leader, how do you manage these unconscious biases as a woman, if you see them?
I believe a good leader is a good listener and works within a team rather than on top of the team. You provide guidance. At the same time, you listen to your colleagues and staff because they have great ideas. They bring in improvements. And by listening and implementing them, you encourage your staff to come up with better ideas and better input and make your company a better place. And also when you are in a position where your staff feel part of the organization, they get satisfaction. So it's both ways. I used to say, it's one of the quotes that was given by me. I said, I never say I always say we. Mm-hmm. I think it's a very, very important thing that we never refer to ourselves as I, because I am nobody without people around me who helped me to become who I am. So a good leadership advice from me is include everyone and listen.
As a leader, did you observe within your teams, or you were able to install that something different from the get-go, but did you see some unconscious biases going on in your teams? Because you would have like a mix of women and men engineers. Did you see some of these, and were you able to address these challenges?
I was obviously pro-women, not because of a gender issue. I believe they were great engineers if I could find them. But the issue was when the pool is very small, your ability to pull from the pool is also minimized. I believed in women, and I don't think I would ever allow people in my organization to be disrespectful to women. Having said that, if you have ever gone to construction site or even in my own lab at our office, for example, at Christmas, gifts were given to most construction offices with women in bikini and pictures that were quite inappropriate, in my opinion, on a calendar that is hung on the wall of a business. But you would see that quite often. I had to remind them that they have to bring it down, and it's quite inappropriate. And the more they hear that inappropriateness, they react. So yes, it was there. It had to be confronted. But the women who worked with me and worked in my office, I think they were given, I hope I gave them enough encouragement to stand on their feet. And because they were good. It's not that because they were women. They were just brilliant engineers.
Yeah. So it was a constant. You had to keep an eye on it at all times.
Absolutely. I believe it's not, I wouldn't say it's a struggle, rather than it's a requirement that we have to consciously remember and remind people that we are here to stay. We are not going anywhere, and you have to accept us.
Do you think that women can do it all? Like, is it possible for a woman today to have a great career, to work the long hours, have a family, do the same, like, do everything at the same time? What is the key to successfully integrate the two? And God knows, like, there are a lot of women that are struggling with work-life balance and trying to juggle their careers and the family at the same time. There's huge responsibilities from both sides. How do you successfully integrate the two? What's your experience on this?
First of all, yes, it is possible. I am an example. There are many, many examples like me, better than me, more successful than me. So yes, women can be successful and do it all. I had 2 daughters. They grew up. They are both educated, successful at what they do. So to answer the first question, yes, it is possible to balance work and life. How to overcome it is through to partnership in reality, not just in the word. I believe fathers love their children, daughters and sons, the same way as the mothers do. Mm-hmm. But we as women feel strongly that we are responsible for household chores. We are responsible to make sure what do we have for dinner. Mm-hmm. We are responsible for taking care of the children and their schooling and their education and on and on and on. And we don't share the burden with our partners. So if you take the burden away from your partner, you're putting it on your own shoulder. So then you are making the weight heavier on yourself. So if as a woman, you want to be successful in your business, in your area of practice, you have to realize that you are in partnership for good, not for words. So the parenting, caring for the household and children are divided equally, not based on what you feel and the guilt that is imposed on you by the past generation. Yeah. And if you want to stay at home and take care of children, that's a hard work and should be respected for what it is, but it is your choice to do, not that you are quitting your job because you feel you have to.
That's very true. So I think it's also coming from us sometimes that we do have to let go of these things and really trust our partner to do the cooking, to do the household chores, and let them evolve in that field as well.
That perfectly said. I think some burden is on us, and I think it's a guilt that is given to us by probably our parents and the way we were brought up. And I encourage the companies, and a lot of progressive companies are encouraging men to take time off. Also, when women go for interviews, I believe there is an unconscious bias during the interview that we are not going to give the promotion to this woman because she is going to take time off for maternity. Yep, definitely. They never think that the male counterpart is going to take time off or is going to leave for another job. You're not going to give him the promotion. They always have in the back of their mind. And the other thing is we are living in the digital and technological advancement period where a woman goes away for 18 months. And I always make the joke that the 5G becomes 6G. You're completely out. You don't know what has happened. So you need to stay engaged, and you can't be that much away from work if you want to be part of the workforce in future.
Yeah, that's very true. And I think, the participation of men in the parental leave is one major key to gender parity. That's for sure. That allows women to, again, go back to work sooner and it's easier then to get back in it and go back to what you were doing and engage with projects. So I think, having the men more involved in the parental leave and take more is definitely a positive thing for gender parity for sure. So I'm hoping to see that trend going up even more as we go. So you were talking about the technological changes, and those are happening at such a fast pace. How do you see your profession evolving? What are the opportunities for the next generation of engineers, and especially for female engineers? What excites you or drives you about the future in your area?
As I mentioned, we are in the fourth industrial revolution. For the first time in the history, physical strength is not going to give a person advantage on getting a job. Your brain and your ability to perform is what sets you apart from your colleagues. So the world has never been more prepared for having equal opportunity for both men and women. For that reason, I think we have never felt the need for women to get into the STEM program as we do now, because our whole industry is reliant on people who are technologically savvy. They are in the field of STEM, science, technology, engineering, math. So women have to get into this program, and they have to immerse themselves in the knowledge that they can gain, so that later on they can be part and participants of the evolution that is there for the humanity to receive. And also, I believe we need to be part of this evolution, because the industry and everything is built by people for people. So if women are not part of it, our advancement and everything that is built will be built for those who are making them. So we need to be part of it. So make sure that is also gender balanced in the usage and provision.
As you say, and it's a question that's going on for AI, like, are the algorithms gender balanced? If it's only men behind the programming, of course they will be. So we do need some.
Absolutely. AI and artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, advanced manufacturing, all of that has to be built by both.
Yeah.
And we have to think, and I always focus on this as well, we cannot forget about other genders. We have to teach our children that the binary issues are over. There is a segment of society that may not be male or female, the whole LGBTQ communities and more. They are all part of our society, and we cannot forget about the minorities. We have to build for minorities, for those are different than us, they don't look like us, or they don't act like us, but they are humans and they are part of this society. So all of that inclusion and diversity has never been more important than it is now, because our world is connected. We are living in one world. Nationalities, colors, ethnicities, genders really doesn't matter anymore, because we connect throughout the world in matter of fractions of seconds. So we are living in one world. We cannot segregate ourselves. We cannot close our doors and say that this is our nation and this is our color and this is our language and this is our religion. Those times hopefully will be behind us. It's not going to happen easily. It will need a lot of input from many, many people and a struggle probably.
And at the end of the day, we all speak human and we all speak tech. That's pretty
Yes. Yes. The algorithms are the same in every languages.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. And that is what makes the world to become one. And people have to sort of open up to the reality of today's economy and today's culture.
Concordia University's engineering faculty is the first in Canada to be named after a woman, you, Gina Cody. That is an exceptional accomplishment, and that will certainly inspire young female students in engineering, especially, again, as I was saying, still only 20% of the engineering students are women. So do you think that we do enough to encourage our girls to go in STEM field? And looking in the future, how do you want to inspire young girls to explore engineering? Like, what do you have to say to them if they show an interest or a talent, or if they do have that curiosity about STEM fields? How do you inspire them, or how do you want to inspire them to explore that?
I believe by having, and I still couldn't believe it, that Gina Cody School of Engineering and Computer Science is the first in Canada, and believe it or not, it's the first of its kind in the world, that in 2018 that this happened, that no other engineering and computer science faculty that we could find in the world, a combined faculty named after a woman. And so I am hoping with my small way send a message that young women and girls do belong in engineering, and when they enter university, is not for men, it's for women too. So they belong there. And that's the message really I wanted to send out, that in the fourth industrial revolution, we are needed, because we know that by 2030, Canada is going to be short by something around 100,000 engineers, because the whole baby boomers that are retiring, people like me who are retiring, and also half of the population not entering engineering and computer science program. We cannot rely on immigration, because the whole world now needs educated engineers and computer scientists. So where are they going to come from? It's going to come from our pool of women. Mm-hmm. So Canada needs it. Our economy needs it. So it is not just for the gender balance and sake of gender balance that it's a must. It's for our economy to survive and be one of the best and advanced countries in the world. We need young women and girls to enter engineering and computer science. And that's the message I wanted to send. We need to do more. Are we doing enough? I don't believe we are doing enough, because we have been talking about it for the sake of talking. That is not going to create into action, because we see for the past decade there has been talks, but it hasn't improved the numbers. So we need to take action more seriously. I give talks to high school. I try to get engaged with younger and the youth. And through university, we are putting programs for children to come to the school and go to different engineering as summer camps, practice engineering at childhood as women, so that they realize engineering is fun. Engineering is something that their future is dependent on that, and they should be part of it. So that is the notion that I'm encouraging all universities, all high schools, all parents to take upon themselves to encourage their young children, both girls and boys, to get engineering and get into computer programs and STEM, and also remind our young women and children and girls that they are good enough, they are smart enough, they are strong enough, and they are capable.
Do you think that the Me Too movement also helped in helping young women realize that they have to, they have a voice, they need to stand for themselves? Do you think that helps in some ways to empower them?
Absolutely. I think the notion of Me Too movement has brought to center the acts and behaviors that were accepted by both men and women for decades in the workforce, in the gyms, everywhere, that women are allowed to say and do what they want. And it is funny and it's macho and it's acceptable. And now we are sending a message that no, it's not acceptable. No, we are not going to put up with derogatory comments. And it's a notion that is reliant on both men and women to stand up when in the locker room a man makes a derogatory remark against their female colleagues, against someone. And I always make this notion that don't just defend your sister and mother and your close friend. Defend any woman, because you're defending humanity as a whole. Mm-hmm. By you listening and not saying anything, you are helping that whole notion to carry on. We are in a world that presidents, prime ministers, people feel that it is okay and acceptable to make derogatory remarks about women in locker rooms or among themselves. It's not acceptable. We don't make those remarks about men. I don't believe that when we go to locker rooms, we make derogatory remarks. So that should also be about men too. So Me Too movement as a whole, I think it has been an evolution for women's liberty, women's freedom as a whole, to stand for their rights and not to be victim of issues that really has nothing to do with them and all to do with the other side.
Gina, Cody, you had an exemplary career path and a very, very impressive one. Do you have a piece of advice, a professional advice? Like, what's your words of wisdom for young professional women who want to succeed in both their family, their careers? What's the one piece of advice that you would tell them?
Something that my mother told me when I was a child. Her advice to me was, the only passage for a woman into independence is through higher education and knowledge. So my advice to my female friends and colleagues and youth is pursue knowledge. Never give up knowledge and education. Go as high as you can, because that gives you an avenue to succeed. And one of the issues that helped me was because I had a PhD in engineering, because people said Dr. Cody to me, and that brought a notion that an institution has already put a stamp of approval and acceptance of me as a woman engineer. So if you are an engineer, you have a PhD or you have a master, you are educated, an institution has given you a stamp of approval. So that makes it easier for the other part of the society to accept you. And for your independence, you need that education.
Gina, Cody, thank you very much for that very inspiring and enlightening conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure, and hope we can have a moment, an era that the whole gender equality would be a thing of the past.
Totally agree. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Women Who Innovate is a podcast series produced by Randstad Canada as part of its Women Transforming the Workplace program. We hope the insights will help you gain a better understanding of the role women play in transforming the workplace and inspire you in your own journey. Thanks for listening. To find out more about our Women Transforming the Workplace program, visit randstad.ca/women.